the guitarist slash banjo player from Mumford Sons, he tweeted a little while ago, Andy Ngo, really brave book that you have. I liked it. And was Twitter mob descended upon him. Andy Ngo is horrible. How dare you? He's a liar, this, that, and the other thing. They came after Mumford Sons. Mumford, according to the guitarist, he said graciously let him stay. But at some point, he felt that the heat that they were getting for him was too much, and he left the band after 10 years of being in the band. And so he did this interview. He had only glowing things to say about his bandmates. But one of the discussions, it was with Barry Weiss, that they had was on the difficulty of like, usually that's a really good heuristic. If 10 people tell you that you are an asshole, that's a really, really good time to pause and reflect. And even if you're sure that you're not, to go, I'm going to suspend my self-assessment here. And how that is so easily corrupted in the age of anonymized mobs.
Sure. Well, it's not, that anecdote isn't prepared for social media.
Yes. And, or even it doesn't need to be social media. Obviously you can have some, it's intended for, I guess interactions. And then you get on the internet and that all gets thrown out the window. So it was just really interesting to hear him. I mean, he left the band. He left the band in his own words to spare his bandmates and to save his conscience. He's like, and the impression that I got, he's like, look, I don't have any crazy, horrible things to say, but I definitely felt like I would be muzzled. Like if I was going to say that I liked this particular book, that would bring hellfire down on my family and my bandmates, and I didn't want to not do that, so I left the band.
Did he leave his family as well?
Then he left his family? No. He seemed like a very very thoughtful guy, but it just made me think of that. I got a bunch of random stuff.
He's a banjo player, right?
A banjo player, and they said lead guitarist and banjo player. I think banjo player is like the lead guitarist in Mumford
Well, the
Sons.
good news for him is I'm sure there'll be a lot of high-paying banjo jobs available to him.
Well, I think this is what I was like, because when you hear banjo player in most bands, you think that is not the 1, 2, 3, or 4 guy in the band. That's like some backup. But I think banjo player in Mumford Sons might be like lead singer, banjo player. It might be right at the top.
Sure. Unless he's a one-man band, though, he's just going to have the same issue, which is people are going to keep hating him for that one tweet.
It seems that already, and this is the other thing, it's kind of like a tsunami, and then it just falls on you, and then it recedes.
Yeah.
And it's not there anymore, and you're like, what? All that for just to destroy my life and then never return?
So was it worth it to leave Mumford Sons at that point? Should he have just sat it out?
No, he says he feels really good about it. He's like, he's the path that he felt like he had to walk. He's like, I needed to maintain my integrity and I needed to protect the people I loved. And he said, I know that if I stay, that literally any song, any album, it will always be, the controversial this, the that. They will have to answer questions till the end of time about a tweet that I sent. And while I don't think that I deserve it based on this tweet, it is my shit. And I want to contain that.
Interesting. What a selfless guy.
Yeah. I thought it was pretty, just from that one interview, I thought it was pretty impressive.
What is the book? Is it like Mein Kampf?
No, it's Andy Ngo, who, and I don't know a ton about the guy, but I know that he's apparently highly controversial. Things that I know about him, he reports on like Pacific Northwest stuff. So a lot of like the rioting that was happening in, was it Portland or Seattle? It's Portland. And he reports a lot on Antifa, and he's pretty anti-Antifa. He is accused by his people that don't like him of being a liar.
Oh, is this the guy? This is the guy that got hit with the concrete milkshake.
This is the guy who got concrete milkshaked. Yes. Oh. And so, look, things that I know about Andy Ngo, he has a book. I don't know if he tells the truth or doesn't tell the truth. I've put very little effort into understanding that. But he wrote a book. The guy said it was very brave of him to say what he said, and then that brought a lot of upset people descending upon not just him, but I think the family members. It's like, look, I can take it, but now my bandmates' family members are getting tracked down, and Mumford's. He didn't say this, but it's like the guy's daughter or niece or someone is getting hit, and you just don't want that. That's
such an interesting. No, sorry, that's an interesting takeaway from thinking that words are violence. Mm-hmm. Is that you meet violence with violence. So like if someone punches me in the face, I punch them in the face.
Yeah.
this is considered an appropriate reaction. It's self-defense.
Yep.
When words are violence, then it's appropriate to meet them with violence, right? And the rhetoric is that some speech, like hate speech, is violent, and you have to stop hate speech at all cost. But then we don't have a clear definition of what hate speech is. And so then you have people that think, well, this person tweeted and they said, writing this book was brave, so I'm going to harass a 13-year-old because the 13-year-old's dad is in a band with the guy that I don't like.
Yeah.
Which, when you, at least for me, when I look at it from that lens, that's a very odd chain of events to occur in someone's mind. Like, oh, this guy made a tweet. He's in a band. I'm going to come after the family members of everyone that's in that band.
Well, and yeah, and that I think what we're dealing with, unfortunately, is the math of millions. You know what I mean? Because that's not the common response, or even the uncommon. That is the absolute fringe response. But in millions of people,
it could end up with 100 people there's harassing the child of a person
or someone
who didn't send
tangentially related.
Yeah.
Correct. Yeah. I mean, like large groups of people are tough because it's, if you are the behavior of the worst behaved person out of 1 million, 2 million, 3 million has probably murdered someone at some point in their life. So
that's what PewDiePie was dealing with. Someone did a shooting and then said, subscribe to PewDiePie.
Yeah.
And they blame PewDiePie, and PewDiePie has 100 million subscribers.
Yeah.
And he just goes, some of these people do things that I wouldn't endorse.
Yeah.
I don't even know how to handle this. Like, I have 100 million subscribers. It's obvious that every day one of these people will do a behavior that I find heinous. Mm-hmm. How does he become responsible for that? How does he handle that responsibility if it's put on him?
Yeah. And at the same time, there is an interesting question of like celebrity and has power to create action, which is, and I don't think PewDiePie at all had anything to do with the shooting, but like you can make people buy things.
You could dog whistle for violent acts.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I don't think that means that everyone who's simultaneously a fan of yours and commits a violent act was dog whistled into doing it.
Yeah. Yes, I agree. It seems like, we've talked about this, so I don't want to belabor it, but it's like all the people who said the things that they said, I actually, maybe it was just pretend the number's 100. Put them in front of the little girl. Put them in front of that guitarist. Take them away from their mob and give them free opportunity to say whatever it is that they need to say to his face. And of those 100, 99 of them shut the hell up.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like,
no, they would probably, none of them would scream at the little girl.
Yeah.
In the way that they do behind a DM or a tweet.
Mm-hmm. And it's, I wonder if the internet will ever, I don't know if this would be a good thing or a bad thing, a loss of privacy, but evolve to the point where there is more of that human sense and also potentially fear of personal retribution. Like it is when you're hiding in a mob, it's a very powerful feeling. I think that's the other thing, is that you feel really strong when you are unassailable, when you are just a person in a thing and you could throw a milkshake and recede back into the mob, where you can inflict pain and damage and know that none will be coming back for you.
You remain anonymous.
Yeah. It's very, you got to feel very powerful in those positions. And I'm sure that partially what drives some of this is a lack of power.
Yeah. Well, I think the way and this isn't how it'll actually shake out, but I think what people like now is retaining their own anonymity, but when other people get their comeuppance by being revealed. So like if a nurse makes a video that they don't like and then loses her job, or if you're
talking about like COVID masks and
anything, vaccines. Honestly, even if a business person, that can be something that's anything political, medicine, homophobic, racist, whatever it might be, that person is identified and then loses their job because of it. People love that until it's them. And also weirdly enough, you don't lose your job if it comes out that you're the one that's harassing a 11-year-old online. At least I've never seen that. Normally it is for something political, racist, homophobic. That you'll lose your job.
The gaze of the world has to be on you.
Right.
But if you're in the mob gazing, saying mean things, I can't think of.
Or at least it doesn't get coverage.
Yeah.
You don't know about the person that harassed this guy's child getting their comeuppance in the real world by being identified and losing their job.
Yeah. Or saying, that's not somebody that we want representing UNICEF. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, this guy works. Yes, it is. I suppose that's part of it, is just to imagine that you might not always be in the mob. You could at some point be the focus of the mob's attention. He also recommended an essay, which I read, which is Live Not by Lies by Solzhenitsyn, who wrote Gulag Archipelago. Jordan Peterson loves him. And he seems to be having, as far as in what I'm hearing, a little bit of a resurgence. And it's just a very short essay that is interesting. What he recommends basically is that, okay, he lives in communist Russia, and like there's penalties for saying. So he says, okay, don't worry about telling the truth. Just refuse to participate in lies. And some of the stuff that he says, like, because is very powerful. People have asked us, and I've seen on other podcasts, hey, I disagree with this thing that is happening in my workplace. The diversity thing seems misguided or whatever. What should I do? And what I have said, because I'm not Alexander Solzhenitsyn, has been like, I understand, do what you can, maybe look to get a new job, but go along to get along. And what Solzhenitsyn would say, which I thought was pretty powerful for a guy who was in the Gulag, is walk out. Like, you don't have to verbally disagree. You don't have to shout. You just need to leave the room. You need to refuse to participate in lies. It's kind of like the civil disobedience of lies. Like, you don't fight anybody, but you just do not participate in them or do them. You don't go to any rallies that you're tried to. It's funny. Some of it is so apropos, because I was thinking of the BLM rallies, and if you support it, fantastic. But I know so many people who felt pressure to go, who did not believe in or support the cause, who went. And
I know multiple people who didn't like what the BLM protests were or had become, but still attended them because they felt extreme social pressure or fear if they didn't have some social media proof that they had attended one.
And so I'm not saying Solzhenitsyn would say they're better or worse, but he really does carve this particular essay out to be like, you are a coward and you are a huge part of the problem. And so I was like, it's interesting. Like, you support BLM, you don't support the protests, you want to talk. Like, if we can get those two sides who earnestly believe things to talk, great. But part of the problem, not the whole problem, but part of it is that you have dishonest actors signaling allegiance in order to try to be on the winning side. And so, it's almost like, look, if everybody could just only say things that they believe, and then we could talk about them at least from an honest place, and then hopefully a good faith attempt to arrive at the truth. What a world that would be. But it'd be really cool.
And I think maybe that makes sense from an individual's perspective, but from the movement's perspective, I think at least short term, it seems far better to say, if you believe this, get in line. But also, if you don't get in line, you'll be a pariah, so get in line.
Oh, well, that's
better for the movement. That's better for the Communist Party. That's better for whatever. So, obviously that's at odds there, because
you're either with us or you're against us because what they want to do, this is happening not in the minds necessarily of any individual, but collectively, this is the evolutionary pressure, is these ideologies, organizations want to grow and expand and have more power, and more bodies, whether or not they're full believers or not, creates more power. So it was interesting. He apparently was comforted by reading this essay, which was just, live not by lies. Like, I don't have to go out there. He's like, it doesn't seem like he's going to become a political figure, but he's not going to
delete the tweet.
Well, he may have deleted the tweet, and he even apologized. And he said, when I apologized, I was apologizing to my bandmates primarily. I don't know what he said in his apology, but at least then he did release a Medium article, which was just, in his opinion, he's like, because I like this book, a whole ton of assumptions were then made about me, which are untrue. And even in the comments, it's like, Andy Ngo is horrible and you're spreading it. It's just like, oh man, it would take a long time to sit down with this level of person. Even if I don't know, man.
Well, did he say he liked the book, or just he thought it was brave to write?
He thought it was brave. And like, I'm trying to think of let's think of the worst version of this just to represent. Let's pretend that he was reading Mein Kampf, and Hitler's daughter is somewhere out there in the world, and he tweets at, little daughter, like, so brave of your dad to write this book. Even then, and while I can understand people getting upset, I think part of what I want to train myself to do is to be like, well, what part of the book did he like? You know what I mean? Like, did he think it was brave to say it because it was going to be shouted down and he disagreed with it? Like, I'm trying to consistently slow the jump to assumption and condemnation with this stuff, which will make me commit. I think there's type 1 and type 2 errors. I forget which one is which, but one of the errors is where you let a guilty man free. And like, I will make that error often with this, but like the legal system, I think it is better to let a guilty man go free than to imprison or punish an innocent one. Hope that you guys enjoyed that clip. If you want to see more like this and have us do more podcasts, we are 100% funded by our generous patrons. And if you'd like to contribute, there's a link in the description, and we'll have one pop up on the screen right here so that we can do more podcasts where we have fun conversations and hopefully some deep ones like this. Either way, hope that you enjoyed the video, and I will see you in the next one.